Hey there, fellow travelers, Mark here with Wolters World, and today we're here in Colmar, France, one of the most beautiful towns you can visit anywhere in France. I mean, there's plenty of beautiful towns and cities all over France, but this one is one of the ones that takes the cake. And that's why a town that I love like this, I mean, even my family's from here, so I might be a little bit biased, but even places like this that I love, like France, I know there's going to be things that annoy tourists as well. And so that's why today what we have for you are the loves and hates of visiting France. And you know, probably the one thing that you love about coming to France, the first thing you're going to love when you're here is actually your first true French experience. If it's flying into Paris and when you see the Eiffel Tower out the window, or when you're walking around the corner, all of a sudden there's the Arc de Triomphe, you're like, oh my goodness, or if you're walking through any city and your first time going into the boulangerie and seeing the baguettes and the croissants and the tarts, you're like, oh my God, these really are as amazing as everyone says, or the cheeses, and you're just like, oh my God, this is so wonderful. Or showing up a town like Colmar, which is just gorgeous as can be. That first French experience, I still get goosebumps thinking about it. I'm all goosebumpy all over thinking about how that first time you come to France, when you really get past those stereotypes and things you think you're going to have, and you get here and you realize how much more wonderful it is than you really thought it would be. I mean, it sounds silly, but France is just so French because it's France and it's amazing. So when you come here, be open to trying all kinds of different foods, different drinks, different cities, not just Paris, okay? But honestly, that first French experience you have really can be a life-changing experience and something you're going to love. And sometimes, so that first really life-changing France experience is something you're not going to like. And that's going to be our first hate, and that is actually the service here in France. And when I talk about the service in France, I'm not talking about rude service. I'm talking about availability of service, speed of service. I mean, one thing you have to realize is when you come here to France, you have to have patience. It takes time to get you seated at the restaurant. It takes time to get you your menu. It takes time to take your order. It takes time to get your food to you, your drinks to you, to get the bill to you, get to your change back to you. This is something you have to realize, is that this is much more of a slow-paced country, and that happens in the bureaucracy, to the restaurants, to wherever. And this isn't something that's targeted to tourists. This is something that everybody here deals with. But in France, it's normal. They've grown up with this. So it's something that doesn't bother them. But you'll see in tourists that have planned 50 different things to do in one day, they get really frustrated because they want to go, 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 go. And France isn't go, 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 go. And so that kind of slower service pace can be really frustrating. And that's why I put it in the haste, because it's just something, if you're not used to, it can really get to you. And it can show up whether it's the month of August, where most of the people are gone on vacation, or if you're in a small town like this and you want to eat between 2 and 7 in the afternoon, evening, and the restaurants are closed because they only have the kitchens open from 12 to 2 and then 7 to 10. So just something to kind of think about, okay? Now, the second thing you're going to love about coming to France are all of your fantastic French experiences you have outside of Paris. Look, Paris is great. You got to go to Paris. I mean, that's a given. But the thing is you really fall in love with France when you go explore France. And there's so many different regions you can go to, so many different cities, so many different towns, going to see the lavender fields in Provence, or going to see the Papal Palace in Avignon, or going to Normandy and you see the D-Day beaches and the churches there, going to Rennes, oh my God, or going to Bordeaux with the Bordeaux tapestry, or maybe you're heading to Bordeaux for the fantastic wine and the mirror, thing in front of the palace. I mean, there's so many great experiences to have, and a lot of people really limit themselves just to Paris. But once you get out, even if it's just day trips away from Paris, which is great because with the TGVs, the fast train, pretty much anywhere in France can be a day trip, but getting out there and really exploring it, and those towns, those cities, but also the nature when you're here, because my goodness, the nature in France, it's so diverse. You want mountains, you have that. You want beaches, you can have that. You want rolling hills, you have that as well. But when you want to go explore all these fantastic parts of the country, that's going to lead to another hate. And that is, well, when you need a seat reservation to be on the TGV and there's no seat reservations left. Look, the fast trains around here, every seat is assigned, and so if you don't have an assigned seat, you don't get to take the train, okay? So you need to have that. And if you're going traveling at Christmas time, on Friday afternoons and evenings, Sunday afternoons and evenings, a lot of times those tickets are booked up not days in advance, but weeks or months in advance. I've been here when they're announcing, okay, the Christmas train ticket season will open up on Tuesday, and people are like lined up Tuesday morning to buy their tickets at the train station and online to make sure they get those seats. And so that can be a bit frustrating for a traveler if you don't know it. And I'm not going to lie to you, the app to buy them on your phone, it's a little bit of a pain. So I recommend going online and buying it and then just printing it out, or downloading the PDF and putting it on your phone than trying to use the app, because I know I've been using the apps for years and they've been frustrating me all the time. So just a heads up for that. But let's move back into some of the things you're going to love about coming to France. And for me, it really comes down to the people and how proud they are of being French. But not just how proud they are of being French, but also how proud they are of being Alsatian here in Alsace, and how proud they are to be from Colmar. You have so much pride in your country, in your region, in your city, in your neighborhood. You see that, whether it is in the regional folk museums, where you see how they show the history of their town, they show the history of their regions. And it doesn't matter if you're in Bordeaux, if you're in Normandy, if you're in Brittany, or if you're over here in Alsace or down in the south, that pride comes through in their food, in their cooking, in their tour guides, in their explanations, and to how much they put into really showing their city and showing their town. And how many times you'll meet locals here that are glad to teach you about France, glad to teach you about their region, glad to teach you about their town. And that's one of the things you love about it, because the people want you to enjoy France. They want you to enjoy your time there. I know I was by the Belgian border, and a friend of mine's dad's like, no, Mark, you come with me. We're going down to the wine cave, and we're going to go look at the wines, and we're going to talk. And we spent like 3 hours just going over the different wines, and he was explaining, oh, this is what you eat with this, and this is what you eat with that, and this is what we have to celebrate this and that, and this is from this region, and oh, and then here's the foie gras that my friend made for us on our own that we ordered 3 years ago. I mean, you have this pride that's in there. In Strasbourg, met a random guy in a store, showed me all around the city. Want to make sure I understood the history of Strasbourg, how it went back and forth from German to French, and he was going back from German to French to kind of let you really feel that. And you have that when you're here. I mean, whether they're young or old, the French have that pride, which is wonderful to really take in, and you see that as a tourist. And that's why I get really sad when people kind of badmouth the French, saying they're rude, they're not friendly. That is a bunch of nonsense. I mean, yes, in Paris, it's a big city. In big cities, people aren't necessarily always the most friendly, but they're still pretty cool. And when you travel the country, you really see that warmth, that heart, and that kindness that the French have, and they want to make sure you enjoy your time here. So if you're open to them and you try to speak a little French, a merci here, just saying bonjour when you walk into a store will make such a difference, and they'll want to help you even more enjoy their beautiful country. But there is kind of one group of people who probably don't want you to enjoy the country, and you don't really care, and they're really the reason why I think France has a reputation for being bad service, and that is our next hate, and that is the Parisian waiters in high tourist track areas. So if you're going to be by the Eiffel Tower, if you're going to be by Sacré-Cœur, you're going to be on the Champs-Élysées, where a lot of tourists go and eat. Remember, the best food in France, it's not by a tourist attraction, okay? You've got to go a little bit farther afield, and you'll have wonderful service in Paris. But since so many tourists only come to Paris, and they only eat by the tourist traps and the tourist stops, those waiters there, they get overwhelmed. You can only be yelled at garçon so many times. Garçon means boy. Don't use that with people, okay? But the thing is that frustration comes out, and so that service in those tourist areas aren't as good as other places in France, and the food is not as good in other places in France, and then people use that as their, oh, well, I know France. Oh, no. Just going to Paris, you don't know France. And that's why I gotta say is those Parisian waiters that are in the tourist areas that are overrun, they're the ones that you're not gonna like. You go to any other part of Paris, any other part of France, you're gonna have fantastic waiters, okay, and fantastic people, so don't let that rude waiter ruin your French experience. Because honestly, those waiters are going to bring you one of the things you're going to love about coming to France, and that is the cuisine. And the thing is, we all know the traditional French foods, right? You have the steak and fries, and you have the frog legs, which are actually kind of hard to get. The escargot, the snails. Oh, you have all this fantastic food. The baguettes, the cheeses. Oh my gosh, the croissants. There's so many fantastic foods that are here. I mean, they can make a plain omelet into a delicacy when you're here. And what's great is when you come to France, what people don't realize is there's the traditional French food that I'm talking about, but then every region has their own thing. You come here to Alsace, Colmar, Strasbourg, you're gonna have much different food. Yeah, you're gonna see sauerkraut and sausages pop up. You're gonna see pork shoulder on there. You're gonna see tarte flambée, which is like flatbread pizza looking stuff. Yeah, you'll have that here. But then you go to Normandy and you've got the oysters there. And there, it's not wine there, it's cider. And you have all these different cuisines. And that's why it's really important that wherever you go, you ask, hey, what's the local specialties? That's what you want to eat, because, oh my goodness, all over France, the cuisine is just different and fantastic and wonderful. And no matter where you go, the wine is fantastic. And honestly, you may put on a little weight here in France when you're eating all that great food, but you know what? It's worth every pound, okay? Another thing you might not like when you do come to France, and this is one thing that you'll see in the news occasionally, is strikes, protests, industrial actions. I mean, these are things that do happen more in France than in some other countries you might visit, or maybe in your home country. It is something you need to be prepared for. Now, it doesn't happen all the time. You know, the TV likes to make it seem like it's a bigger issue than it is sometimes, but it is a good idea to have an idea. Oh, if the taxis are on strike when we land in Paris, what's our other way to get the family of 4 from the airport to our apartment? Okay, so you want to kind of think about these things. And what's nice in France, when there's going to be strikes, there's going to be protests, they let people know, and so you can plan around that, which is really nice. But it still is frustrating when the metro's on strike or the trains aren't working for a day or something like that, because that can affect your trip. Now, it's not all the time, but it's just something that I know as travelers, it might get you a little bit. And now we come to the 5th thing you're going to love about coming to France. And I'm going to be honest with you. If it hasn't been the people, if it hasn't been the food, if it hasn't been the wine, if it hasn't been the cities and the villages and the spirit and the culture of France that you haven't fallen in love with, I don't know what else you can love when you're here. And that's why for this number 5, I want you to put down in the comment section below, what do you love about France? Because there's so much amazing stuff here, from the Côte d'Azur to Normandy to here in Paris to Lille. I mean, there's so much to love and enjoy. I mean, hell, just going to a bar like this bar behind me right here. Shoot, I mean, the guy that runs there was a fantastic dude. Got to meet him, talk to him, have some great drinks at a great price. I mean, there's just so many things you fall in love with when you're here in France that I really want to know what got you to fall in love with France, because it is an amazing place. So I hope you liked our 5 love and hates video of coming to France. If you want to learn more, maybe the don'ts of visiting France, mistakes tourists make when they come to Paris, the street eats here in Paris, check us out on our website at woltersworld.com. Also, don't forget to click that subscribe button. And if you're interested in food while you travel, check out our Wolters World Eats channel as well. I'll say bye from here in Paris, in the beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country of France.